Okay, we're still getting a few guys joining, but let's start. So first, let me welcome Tom Budge. Tom, many of you will obviously know well, and those of you don't, you'll have a clue in the Barone, Budge, and Dominic. Tom is one of the founders of BBD, and one of his claims to fame is he managed to teach me Pascal, which means he's obviously an accomplished teacher. Following his time at BBD, he's pursued many different things. I know he's interested in the stars and the planets out there, and as well as he's become an accomplished hypnotherapist. And today's topics where he will sort of look at the subconscious mind and how it affects us and the power of it. And I think the topic debugging the subconscious is a great topic. He'll take us through that, so please enjoy. Just please note that we'll keep this to half an hour, and we'll take questions. I'll manage the questions for Tom. So Tom, go for it.
Oh, thank you, Pete. And nice to sort of connect with everyone, even in this virtual space during lockdown. The whole idea of the subconscious mind kind of fascinated me a lot, and it's been fascinating me kind of ever since I got out of BB&D some years ago when I retired out of the business. And very often people say to me, Tom, what the heck happened to you? You were in this science world of programming computers, and all of a sudden you shot off sideways and you ended up in this crazy space with this thing called hypnotherapy, because all that anyone ever sees of that is what you get to see on the stage. And did you lose your marbles somewhere along the way? And perhaps I did, but I think what my comeback line for that is that it's not very far away, it's not very far removed from programming. It's just that it's debugging and programming a very different computer. We're trying to debug and program this very complicated computer, as opposed to the kind of computers that we have sitting in front of us. There are lots of similarities. So what just bear with me, because if I fumble a little bit with getting my PowerPoint presentation slides up here, it's just I'm a little bit of a novice at this, but I'm going to give it a good go. So let me see if I can get this slide up and share this slide with everybody. This is an idea that came from Freud. Freud said that the mind was a little bit like an iceberg. That was his analogy for it, his metaphor for it. And in that iceberg model of his, he said that quite a little bit of the space that is at the top that pokes out of the water is the kind of conscious interaction that we have with one another. He said there's a lot of information hiding below the waterline, if you like, and this is the subconscious space. And that subconscious space, to give an idea of what that might be, in practical terms, if I asked any one of you for your email address, it's not something that you'd be currently thinking about, but it's an easy bit of information to go down and access in your mind. You bring that subconscious idea or that data of your email address up into your conscious mind. We can talk about it, we can interact with that, but after an hour, half an hour, even 10 minutes, that idea of the data of the email address kind of sinks back into the subconscious mind. And that's really what the subconscious mind is all about. And then we have the unconscious mind. These are all sorts of bits of data that we are processing way off the radar. Thank goodness we do not consciously become aware of how the elastic feels around our waist all day long, or how the socks feel on our feet, or the shoes on our feet. Those are bits of information that we might be able to access deeply inside ourselves. Some information we can't even access at all. But that's Freud's model of how the mind works. And I want to just flick to another slide. So let me see if I can just drive this again. There's a little trick that I have here with something that I've got to try and do. No, I'll do it a slightly different way. This is where my tech has kind of sort of slightly got the better of me. There we go. Clear all those drawings, and I think we are back to where we were. So the Freud's model of the subconscious mind, of the mind, really was the iceberg. But somehow what we have is, you see that if I go, I'm at 6s and 7s here, sorry guys, just bear with me for a sec. That's the one I'm looking for, and I just want to annotate that a little bit. Freud's idea of the subconscious mind was the iceberg. Here we have the very primitive brain. It's the kind of brain that every reptile has. Every bird will have that brain. It's a very reactive brain. It's a brain about survival, about the basic instincts that we have in life. Wrapped around that, there we have an emotional brain. Lizards and birds don't have emotions. They're incapable of expressing those emotions. We as human beings can. And then wrapped around that emotional brain sits the rational brain, and that's the cortex. That's that crinkly part of the brain. And this, especially the frontal lobe of the brain, is where we have all our rational thought. This is where we're able to have complex thinking, where we're able to invent things, extrapolate information, analyze data, and all of those kind of things. So when we look at this model, and again, I'm just going to try and get to another slide here, and I think I'm getting slightly the hang of this. This is the one I want. Let me clear all that other stuff out. This that we're seeing here is the model that we're very familiar with. We have the client processing, which is the external world, all the stuff that comes to us from our visual senses. These are our users interacting on the computer, but a lot of stuff is hidden in the cloud. We don't get to see that cloud stuff. And within there, we have layers of it. We have client servers and database servers. And the mind is very much like that. It operates in layers. There's the outside part, the very conscious part that allows us to interact with the world. But they're the deeper parts, those emotional parts, the feeling parts of the brain that are incapable of analytical thought. And then way down, there's a reactive brain, an old primitive brain, wrapped up in these layers that allows us to drive this body and coordinate our movements and all the things for which we don't really need to do any thinking. I'm getting a bit better at this screen thing. So next slide is this one, and let me clear all of those drawings. This is an interesting one because it's really a bottom-up approach, if you can see that. Down the bottom, we've got the 5 senses. We have sense organs for visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, that's smell, and gustatory is taste. These waves of information come into our neurology. This percolates up through the subconscious mind. A stat that absolutely fascinates me is this one, and that is that we process somewhere around 40 million neurological inputs every single second. That's all done in real time. If you get a stone in your shoe, for instance, it doesn't take you too long to understand that there's something that's bothering your foot. You're not consciously aware of it when the stone gets into your shoe, but after a little while it starts to become niggly and irritating, and maybe it even starts to dig into the sole of your foot. And we very quickly pick up on this 40 million neurological inputs per second. That sensation in the shoe refers itself up to the brain, and we become unconsciously aware of it. We become subconsciously aware of it, and then when it hurts, it comes into our consciousness. We stop for a moment, take our shoe off, take the stone away, and very soon we're back again in the space of just getting on with life, and we're not thinking about our feet anymore. So all of this is a kind of a model of how the brain is structured and how the brain computes and works out its world, and how we become perceptive of that world that we're in. Let's see if I can get the next little slide up. I don't have many slides. It's about almost the second to last one. This one, if I clear that data. Things go wrong, just as things go wrong with coding, and we need analytical tools. This is just a piece of website of mine that has some coding in it. And I was just using Firefox debugger at the time, so it was a nice screenshot of that. But somewhere inside the brain, things go wrong, and they don't always work out the way they should work out. Sometimes way in the past, we have memory that comes all the way from childhood that we drag into our present circumstance, or we're in lockdown and we don't know what to do with our isolation. We either feel lonely or we feel overwhelmed or claustrophobic, and we have to try and understand, how do we debug this? Now, what you can do is you can get into a committee meeting and you can sit there and you can slice and dice and analyze and talk till the cows come home about what you see that is wrong. When you try to use your rational brain to solve problems, you very often cannot solve those problems. One has to almost set kind of breakpoints, go deeper into the subconscious mind, understand what those drivers are, how those drivers interact. And once you can sort of find out there's a piece of code that doesn't work, you can go there and you can fix that kind of code. So this thing that seems like very weird, this thing called hypnotherapy, is nothing really that funny. It's a fantastic debugging tool. It's a tracer, if you like. It's a fixer-up of things. It's the equivalent of Flutter or Visual C. It's a desktop, maybe. It's a software development environment that allows us to go back and try and understand what these motivators are, where do they come from, how did they arise on our timeline, and how can we fix them. And once you have an idea of where things go wrong, it's very easy then to try to lay down new traces of new thinking to change behavioral patterns in the way we are and the way we emotionally interact with the world. Let me see if I can get that next slide up here quickly. Clear all of that. So this seems like a lot more complicated. It looks like a very complicated drawing. It really is. There is a horizontal line running across the screen from left to right. Just in from there, you see a little word called birth. That is, at your birth, it goes through now. This is this moment that we're experiencing right now. And it goes across to the right-hand side there to the point of death, somewhere in the future. What happens is we have events somewhere in the past, in our childhood. These are usually in our formative years, somewhere between the ages of about 4 and 7, say. And those events will affect us in a particular way. I'm very good at doing certain things, but I'm very, very bad at doing other things. If Peter Searle asked me to go and surf with him, I'd have a heart attack. I wouldn't know how to do this. So if Pete, somewhere in my past, had said to me, come Tom, let's go and surf, my belief about my body coordination and how well that I could do that would be a negative belief. And you'll see that the further you travel down this line away from that baseline, the deeper in a negative context this belief is. And if I have a negative belief about how well I am going to perform in something like a sports, then that belief is nothing more than just a set of ideas. It's not real. It's not something that's happened to me. It's just a belief I have about that prospect. And what will happen if Pete says, I'm going down to Durban on the weekend, not that we could do it over lockdown, but I'm going down to Durban over the weekend. Would you like to come down and I'll teach you how to surf? What would happen is I would project along that line through into the future an expectation of what my performance would be like. And I can guarantee you that my expectation of getting onto a surfboard would be a bad one. I would take the route of, I'm not going to perform this. I'm going to have negative emotions about that. I'm going to be in a state of panic. I'm going to be in a state of fear. I might even want to try and get out of this whole expedition. And these negative emotions that I have down here in the bottom right-hand corner, those would be real. This is the only first real thing that's happened. I would feel that. I would feel the panic, the dry mouth, the sweaty bouts, all of the things that would be emerging about this experience, this prospective experience, even though the experience itself is only merely an expectation in my mind. The more I run this loop, the more I go around this loop, the more I entrench and reinforce this idea of mine. And the whole experience just wells up inside me until I might even have a panic attack about it. However, if somebody said to me, Tom, can you sit down and help me design and write a website for me? This is a belief that I know I have skill for. if they said, would you come and sit with me on the weekend and write the website, my expectation of my performance would be a positive one. I would run the loop up here and I have positive expectations, and emotions would arise out of that. I'd say, yes, an opportunity to prove my skill. I'm going to be able to do this great. And the more I think about that, the more I would reinforce it, and the more that would blow air into this belief. The more you blow air into this belief, the bigger this belief goes. And if it's a positive belief, it goes upwards, it becomes better, and I feel more confident. But if it is a negative one and I blow air into it, I make it more negative. The belief gets bigger and it becomes more entrenched in my thinking. So it seems like we have positive beliefs that end up in positive expectations with positive results, and negative beliefs that end up in negative expectations with negative results, and emotions that flow from that. And that's fairly true. But what happens if I have a negative expectation, but actually when I get on the surfboard, against all odds, I actually do quite well? What do you think happens? Well, let's leave that one for a minute. Let's take this one. What if a friend of mine says, come and write my website for me, and we start, and I make a terrible go of it? What I will do is I'll take this path, because there are only two outcomes here, 1 and 2. So I will take this path, and this path that I take is going to lead me down to negative emotions. I screwed this website up. I didn't know how to write the code. I missed some important thing. And if this was the way I rated my failure 1 times, if I expected to fail and failed, I would rate my failure here 10 times or 100 times. I'd have 100 times more negative emotions about failing because I had expected to succeed. But in fact, really what happened is I failed. If I'd have taken this path up here, I expected to fail, but I didn't. I'm going to see that as a fluke. I'm going to say that is a complete and utter mistake. It's a perturbation. It's against my nature. It happened by error. I'm not going to take the credit for it. Only if I expect to succeed, and indeed I do succeed, only then will I give myself the credit for it. Let me just get rid of all of this and come back here on visual. So what I hope to have done just here is just to give you an idea of the tools we use so that we don't have these old misconceptions about what hypnotherapy is and what lifestyle coaching is and NLP, and these are just tools. They're software development environments. We have a very complex computer here, and I've given you a tiny glimpse of how we can get into cycles of worry. That notice on that drawing that that last slide of mine, there were 2 ways of getting down to negative emotions in the bottom corner, whereas there was only one way, one realistic way of getting to the emotions, the positive emotions in the top right-hand corner. And so we set ourselves up, it's just our default setting is that we tend to fail. We tend to behave and create negative beliefs far quicker than we do positive beliefs. And we want to talk about those in future sessions here on this series of talks that we're having. So I'm open to questions, Pete.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I've got no questions, unbelievably, but I do have a question on the Q&A. So please do ask questions on Q&A. Yeah, so they're coming in now. They were waiting for you to finish.
By the way, I just wanted to say one thing, if I could. I thank you for everyone who wrote to me privately. I've got a whole flood of people who wrote to me on my private email. I understand that one doesn't really want to bring this into a public domain, and I'm happy to field all of those things. I haven't started writing back to you, but in this next week I've set time and I will reply to each one.
Cool, thanks, Tom. So I'll come back to my question later if we then do have time. It's along the same lines. I've got a question here from Tanya. Is there a way to enable myself to have a more successful outcome? For example, if I fail, is there something I can do to make sure I don't set a very negative belief? So instead of always needing to sort the negative beliefs out retrospectively, can I sort them out proactively as they happen?
Very good question. So let's go back to that last slide. You'll remember the essence of that last slide. In that red loop at the bottom, going around and around and around and reinforcing negative beliefs and making them bigger and entrenching them, we have a name for getting stuck in that loop. The label that we use for getting stuck in that loop is called worry. The top loop, the green loop, has its own name, and that top loop is called positive visualization. If we can positively visualize, and you know the Tony Robbins kind of rah-rah stuff, it's like if you can create a positive visualization of something and you can hold that idea out for long enough, eventually, in the beginning it seems like you're faking it, but after a while you rewire the neurons in your brain and you go from faking it to making it. And so how do you get out of, I think Tanya's question is, how do you get out of the worry loop at the bottom of that drawing? And how do you promulgate your way to the top loop? How do you get to the top loop? You have to use two things. One is to understand that you're in the worry loop, and you have to barricade that worry loop. You have to say, stop doing this. This serves me no purpose. I eject this thought. I do not want to get stuck on this thought. And then to set something as an opposite to that so that you can create visualization in order to get yourself into the top loop, and then to hang yourself in that top loop for a while until that faking becomes your reality.
Thanks, Tom. Simple question here from Charlene. Do you do hypnotherapy remotely?
Yes, it's all done remotely. Because all I can do is I can create sound waves and say some words, and when they reach your ears and they take you out of your conscious state and into your more subconscious state, we left, what is hypnotherapy really? It is a trance state, but trance is a natural, normal state of mind anyway. We daydream, and that's really what that state is. So we just induce that state. And when we're in that state, we're more receptive to change. And so whether I do this sitting face-to-face with somebody in person, or whether we do this over teleconference, it works pretty much the same. The only thing we have to watch for as technicians is we have to just understand that a line can drop. We can lose the signal. And if somebody's sitting in hypnotic trance, how do you get them out of that if you're not there with them? But you know, those are just technical things. Those are minor challenges.
Staying on the hypnotherapy theme, is a question from Liesel. Do you do hypnotherapy on children?
Because this is a therapy of words, because this is about trying to reframe the way we think. Kids, depends on their cognitive ability. 6, 7 sounds like about a good starting age. And then the kind of stuff we do is we do it very pictorially. It'll be through drawings and other imagery rather than through a set of words. But yeah, kids basically are in a state of trance all the time. One only starts emerging out of that kind of fantasy world when you're about 7, 8, 9.
Same theme from Rachel. Do you think pre-recorded off-the-shelf hypnotherapy or NLP programs can be effective?
Yes, but remember, it's like, there was a lady once, a comedian, her name's Irma Bombeck, and she did an interesting skit which you can find on YouTube about one size fits all, and she was trying to find some women's garment that she was trying to try on, and she's a rather large lady, and there's this whole skit about how one size fits all doesn't really fit. So off-the-shelf hypnotherapy is a one size fits all. It's like buying one size fits all socks. And they may fit, but in all likelihood, they don't fit comfortably. Okay. Better to do it personally.
Cool. There's a couple of questions here around negative beliefs and negative behavior. So I'll just go through those. The first one came from James. He says, what are simple steps one can take to improve outlook on negative beliefs in order to change the way we think about them?
Again, that's very much like answering Tanya's question. When we get stuck in negative beliefs, we have to understand that we're at the bottom of that, in the bottom loop. We're in the worry loop. We are taking things that are not real, and we are reacting to them emotionally and physically as if they were real. So I used to be an arachnophobe, very scared of spiders when I was a kid. I've sort of worked my way out of that now. But if I even thought of a spider, I'd get my body into a state of flight and fight. I could feel my heart rate increase and so on. That's that bottom worry loop. We have to realize these things are not real. I'm not afraid of the spider. I'm afraid of my reaction to the spider. And that's something I have control over. And I can then put a barricade up for that fear, and then finally, through visualization, get myself into the top green loop where I can start to do something more positive about it. I don't go picking up spiders, but I'm happy to tolerate them in the room. And if they're there, they're there. They don't bother me like they used to in the past.
So I think you might have answered the next question already. It says, how do we go about breaking patterns of negative behavior or not? Is it that positive reinforcement?
Let me reinforce that. Through interruption first. I suppose before interruption is to recognize I'm in the bottom loop of worry. I'm taking beliefs, projecting them as expectations, thinking that they're real, because the conscious part of the mind knows what is real and what's imaginary. The subconscious part of the mind cannot tell the difference between what is imagined and what is real. And so when we take a belief and we project it as an expectation, and we have an imagined outcome for that expectation, we believe that it's real at some deep level. And the first thing is to come to a realization, this is not real. This is a figment of my imagination. Can I do something about it? Second thing, interrupt it. Put a barricade, put peace on the highway, stop going down that neural pathway. And then the third thing is, how do I fix it? How do I create a set of thinking that is stronger than this set that I have? And how do I stay in the visualization loop in order to reinforce that?
Thanks, Tom. So we're running out of time for questions. We said half an hour. So we now, having had very few while you were talking, they flooded in. So I'm going to try and pick a couple just to finish. I think one that is possibly topical right now is what advice would you have for people that have feelings of depression or extreme anxiety right now with the virus situation?
Nice question. Understand that a couple of things are happening here. Well, this is something that we don't know. So we don't know about. We've been a few months in lockdown, but we don't know how long this is going to go, and we don't know how the economy is going to kick back later on. So we have no outcome for this. So we have expectations. That's all we're left with. And we're starting to create beliefs around this. And those beliefs, if we start watching the news and we sit watching CNN or BBC endlessly all day, and we're on social media and we're getting all the negativity, what it's doing is it's starting to create beliefs. And those beliefs we're starting to project into our future as expectations. And those expectations have negative outcomes. They are not things that we can easily deal with. We don't have the tools for those. So recognize that, guys. Second thing is interrupt that thought process. Stop watching the negativity. Stop interacting with the negativity on social media or on TV. Start finding alternative ways, mindfulness, other things, looking at something that makes you laugh, go and play with the kids, find something else that takes you out of that loop. And then what you can do is you can start to create some power images about the top loop, about the visualization loop. What are the things that we need as default settings in this time? 3 things. We need happiness, playfulness, and we need they like cliches in my head, and now they're gone out. Happiness, playfulness, and there's another one. But we want those as default settings. Those are how we want to flood this brain of ours right now. So go back to happy moments, even if you're living on your own. Go and watch something funny on YouTube, or engage in something nice, uplifting, or take a walk somewhere. But break out of that bottom loop. All of this, the key to this is to break out of that bottom loop, to recognize you're in it and to break out of it.
I'm going to do 2 more. One is more a statement than a question. There might be a question in here, Tian. You've written, or this is from Tian. This is an awesome topic. Thank you. And I believe this is the reason why our world has come to a stop for human beings to reprogram our core beliefs. It seems that the awareness of the thought process brings the change. I think that's a topic all by itself. We can sort of delve into philosophy there. So this is an interesting comment from Tian. And then he has a bit of a challenge for you from Narendra. He says, I have read that hypnotherapy has been compared to hitting a horse on the head with a hammer to get it to do what one wants, as opposed to other techniques like meditation. Is there any grounds to this comparison? Is the hypnotherapy a hammer as opposed to a bridle?
Okay, nice question. Let me take the last one first, and then I'll come back to Tia. Meditation is a bit of an art form, but when you get it right, where it takes you, whether this is mindfulness, meditation, prayer, whichever form you want to see it in, it takes you into that subconscious space. It takes you into a trance space. And trance is just a normal, natural state of mind that we can get ourselves into as human beings. What do you do with trance? Now, whether no matter how you get into trance, what do you do with trance? And in meditation, one just waits for realizations to come about. So it is true that in hypnosis, the hypnosis being a therapy of words, the kind of power of suggestion where we can change belief systems through those suggestions, it is a bit of a sledgehammer approach, but it is fast. And that's what we're looking for. And we want to sometimes take these disruptive things and we want to break them apart, and we want to build new structures. And the quicker we can do that as a therapy, maybe for some that's the way they want to do it. For others, maybe they want to just let those realizations come through the practice of mindfulness. So let's come back. It's Rian, no?
It was Tian around, yeah, the awareness of the thought process brings the change, reprogram our core beliefs, yeah, in this time.
Yeah, so around this whole, just say the question again for me. Again,
so this is an awesome topic. I believe this is the reason why our world has come to a stop, for human beings to reprogram our core beliefs. It seems that the awareness of the thought process brings the change, yeah.
Yeah. Fundamentally, we have created value out of material things. When our grandparents or my parents came out of the war, their value was not about Prada shoes or fancy cell phones or gizmos and gadgets or fancy cars. For them, their sense of value was to put food on the table. They'd come out of rationing and all sorts of things. So they came out of the war, and what they did is they did lavish entertaining, big parties. Today, our sense of value is how do we go, and in this multitude of choice that we have in a material world, how do we find value, status, through the house, the car, the things we wear, the gizmos and gadgets that we have. What's happened here is through the virus and through lockdown, we've come to realize that some of our core values are not in the Prada shoes. You can't eat your Prada shoes. You can't get value out of them, not unless you wear them where someone else can see you wearing them. What is starting to emerge is we're starting to see that some of our core values are making connections with the people that we love, missing that tactile experience that we have with others, hanging out with people, interacting, socializing. Those are the core values. And so does this teach us, does this lockdown teach us how to recalibrate? I think it would be a mistake if we didn't recalibrate by the time we come out at the end of this. And what will that new normal be? Hopefully not the same as it was when we went into it.
Cool. Thanks, Tom. And thank you everybody who joined and listened to Tom. And it's a great topic. We've still got a bunch of questions. So I apologize if I didn't get to your question. But certainly we're going to be having more of these sessions, and I will get all the questions through to Tom. And I think he'll respond to them directly, or he might just work them into his next session. We have got a webinar calendar that we're developing because it's a useful way of chatting in BBD and also to the families of BBD on whether it be social or more serious topics like we've discussed today. So I can't promise an exact time for Tom's next session, but I'm predicting it'll be in about 2 weeks' time. If Tom has gap in his diary. So yeah, just again, apologies for not getting to all the questions, and thank you very much, Tom. It was a good analogy, the one about programming and debugging and the subconscious, and I think we understood it well. So yeah, I think the message is be mindful and have happy thoughts, and don't be depressed in this current situation. But thank you very much, and we'll chat again soon. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.